So this weekend, Tim Pool, the YouTube sensation commentator, was posted a tweet, which I'm going to pull up right now, where he was driving in Michigan, and he put up some photos of a billboard that apparently the Democratic National Committee funded and put together. And it is a billboard linking RFK Jr. to Donald Trump. It says, quote, this is the tweet, Democratic National Committee funded billboard outside of Grand Rapids, Michigan attacks RFK Jr. as powered by MAGA/Trump. RFK Jr. is hosting a rally here later today. Okay. And then you see on the sign, it has a picture or the billboard of RFK Jr. and Trump. It says powered by MAGA and Trump, same biggest donor, Timothy Mellon. Okay. That is a pretty big step, I think, to say that RFK Jr. is somehow MAGA. Now, it may be true. I take them at their word that they have the same biggest donor. And I'm sure that there are many donors who are MAGA who are supporting RFK Jr. because they see it to their benefit. They think that having RFK Jr. on the ticket will take some votes away from Biden so that more votes comparatively go to Trump. But to say that RFK Jr., like himself, is MAGA, I think that is totally unfair. So it raises the question, why is the Democratic Party so threatened by RFK Jr.? And RFK Jr. has talked about this well before these billboards went up. And by the way, it's significant that they're in Michigan because Michigan is one of those battleground states where Trump and Biden are really trying to get votes. So RFK Jr. has said many times that the Democratic National Committee has it out for him and they are trying to suppress his candidacy. And he has been very critical of the Democratic Party. When he announced his candidacy over a year ago, he said, quote, I'm running for president of the United States because the Democratic Party lost its way. He said, I think people are tired of being lied to by the government and by the media. So that's one reason why the DNC would probably be a bit threatened by RFK Jr. But also it goes back to what I was just alluding to a few seconds ago, and that is that RFK seems to be the candidate who will take a lot of votes away primarily from Biden to give more votes to Trump. Now, also undoubtedly, and it's been proven in polls, he is likely to take some votes away from Trump. He, I think, is a good candidate for people who are kind of in the center, who are disillusioned by both parties. But according to several polls, Beacon, Shaw, Fox News, Echelon Heights, Ipsos, they show Ipsos. It sounded weird when I said Ipsos.
It sounds delicious.
Maybe I'm just hungry. I know.
I'd like to pour some Ipsos on my burger.
I want some Ipsos right now.
Ipsos.
Ipsos. But Ipsos is one of those polls which say that it is more likely that RFK Jr. will take votes away from Biden and not from Trump. Also, according to a Marist NPR PBS NewsHour poll. God, by the way, God, these polls, they've got so many. It's always like the slashes, Marist, NPR, PBS NewsHour. I guess that each of those entities take.
Much like a responsible father, you should keep your kids off the polls.
Nice one.
Thanks.
Actually, I although it's kind of not fun to read, I think it's good. It's good that, each of these entities are pulling together their polls. Now, every time I say it, I think of your joke. 30%, according to that aforementioned poll, 30% of Democrats and left-leaning independents are very satisfied if Biden is the nominee, compared to 43% of Republicans/Republican leaning independents are satisfied if Trump is the nominee. So fewer people in the Democratic Party are satisfied with Biden than Republicans are with Trump, which would be more of an indication that an independent on the ballot, RFK Jr., would probably take more votes from the Biden left-wing independent camp than from the Trump right-wing independent camp. And, we have seen time and time again in American history that third-party candidates can do a lot to sway the outcome of an election. By the way, yesterday I was playing some clips of when LBJ announced that he would not seek re-election. I played another clip of when Richard Nixon resigned as president of the United States, when I was talking about what Joe Biden ought to and perhaps will do. And now I'm going to give some examples of these independents. It's just maybe presidential History Week here on the Timeless with Julie Hartman Live first week. But Ralph Nader is one such example. In 2000, in the match-off between Al Gore and George W. Bush, Nader, who was part of the Green Party, got just under 5% of the vote, nearly 3 million votes, but he did win 97,000 votes in the state of Florida, which was the decisive state where Al Gore lost by 537 votes. Ross Perot ran as an independent in 1992 in the matchup between George H.W. Bush, who we call Bushushuru, for the Japanese word that was named after the incident where he vomited on stage.
Can I finish?
What'd you say?
Can I finish?
What's that?
That's a Ross Perot impression.
Really?
Can I
don't
finish?
know that.
Yeah, he was in the debate going, can I finish?
Well,
Can
here's
I
my
finish?
excuse. Here's my excuse.
Can I finish?
I was born in 1999.
I was in...
I'm going to hide behind that as not understanding the
I remember
reference.
in AP Civics in high school,
Yeah?
my teacher took a mock vote, and it was George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and Ross Perot. Is that correct? That was
Yeah.
the election?
Yep.
And everyone was 50-50, and I was the only one in the class that voted for Ross Perot.
Why? Why'd you vote for
And
him?
he said, that's exactly what my teacher asked me. Why'd you vote for him? And I said, because I can.
And that was
Yeah.
a burgeoning Sean McConnell. I remember in our third grade class, we had a teacher who asked, because that was when Barack Obama and John McCain were running. I remember she got up and she said, I want everyone to take a vote of who you would vote for. And then literally 5 seconds later, I'll never forget this, she said, nope, we're actually not going to do that. And we said, why? And she said, because it's not who you're going to vote for, it's who your parents are voting for. And I thought, that's so true. You know, when you're a little third grader, you don't realize that you're just following along with who your parents would vote for. I gotta ask my parents. I think they voted for Obama. Shaking my head. It was a different time. Anyway, they're watching. Maybe they voted for McCain. I have no idea. But Ross Perot is an independent during the Clinton and Bush match off in 1992. He won nearly 20 million votes. That's 19% overall. And many people think that's why Clinton won against George H.W. Bush, who was a one-term president. So basically, independents can have a lot of sway in how elections go. And this is why, in addition to those billboards, the Democratic National Committee is trying to continue their efforts to not have independent candidates on the ballot, or at least not have them do particularly well. There was a big Wall Street Journal spread recently about a super PAC, which the Wall Street Journal says looks like it is a Democratic National Committee operative. It's called Citizens to Save Our Republic, and they are trying to raise money to knock down No Labels. No Labels is a political group which supports candidates which have no labels, who are independents. So again, consult with the Wall Street Journal if you want to read more about the super PAC's attempt to get no labels off of the ballot. But, you know, just in general, I think that RFK Jr. represents a true liberal, and we now have lost true liberals. These are just some of his positions, and he's hugely threatening to the Democratic Party, because this is no longer the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party, to the point of our discussion, has mostly become leftist and not liberal. So here's what RFK says. He says, we're addicted to war. Quote, one of the big problems we have in our federal government is addiction to war. We've spent $8 trillion on wars since 9/11. If we kept that money at home, we would have had childcare for every American. We'd have free college for every American. We'd be able to pay for our social security system. Pretty classical liberal take, right? Agreed. People in the middle on both sides really endorse that position. He also is not pro pushing vaccines on people. Now, obviously, there's all this stuff on the internet about views he has about vaccines. I'm not going to get into that. But he essentially said that he thought that it was unfair to have these vaccine mandates during COVID if people were uncomfortable taking them. I think that's a classical liberal position, but that is not the position, or was not the position, of the Democratic Party, furthering my point that the modern Democratic Party is much more leftist than it is liberal. Some other points of RFK Jr., which are pretty just commonsensical. He thinks that the border has been, quote, a disaster and humanitarian catastrophe. He does not like the elitism of various international entities, such as the World Economic Forum, who set rules for thee, but not for themselves. He's talked about big tech censorship. In fact, he's filed legal action against the Biden administration and Google for their collusion in suppressing anti-COVID vaccine stories and anti-Biden stories on the internet. So yeah, I think we understand why they are seeing him as such a big threat. But you know what's sad? In addition to the Democratic Party really trying to sideline RFK Jr., he's also getting it from his own family. And that I really don't like. Look, obviously his family has every right to disagree with him. It's a free country. I love respectful disagreement. But in my opinion, I think the way that they're doing it is unfair to RFK and is particularly mean. Let me cite 2 examples. So the first is...
Before you do the example, you triggered something to me. I've
Yep.
heard Jordan Peterson...
You're triggered.
Jordan Peterson warned about this. Elon Musk has talked about it. 2 guys who are apolitical, basically, but they have been labeled conservatives and therefore are. And so talking about RFK, who is not a conservative, is now being labeled a conservative because everything in the political spectrum has shifted to the left.
Yes.
And anything to the right of the left is bad.
Totally.
That is not healthy, man.
I mean, I'm very proud to say that I'm a conservative because I want to conserve the principles of the American founding. I love the United States of America. I also am conservative because I would vote and will vote for Donald Trump over Joe Biden. So I get that, I am conservative and I'm proud to say that I am. However, there are so many views that I have and I go, am I really conservative? Like, are these conservative? I'm pro-police. I'm pro-strong border. I'm pro-punishing and prosecuting crime. I think that children should not be given puberty blockers and gender-altering surgeries until they're 18. When they're 18, they can do whatever the heck they want. It's a free country. If you want to be trans, be trans. You're not going to get any kind of blowback from me. If you're 18, I mean, these are positions that I'm like, okay, does this really make me on the right? Or does this just make me a person of common sense? Now it does make me on the right.
It makes you a decent human being.
Right.
And we can't let the left, the far left, hijack the center.
But the far left has. The far left has hijacked every institution.
Scrape and claw and gain that ground back.
And so this is what I really resent. You have said it perfectly. This is what I really resent about the Kennedy family's treatment of RFK Jr. Again, they have every right to disagree with him, but they should do so, in my view, more respectfully and understand that his beliefs are what the parents, what JFK and RFK believed when they were the darlings of the Kennedy family and of the Democratic Party. I don't get how angry modern day Kennedys are at RFK Jr. Again, let's look at some examples. So this weekend during the Super Bowl, where I know the name of the guy, Travis Kelce. I got that wrong yesterday.
Nice
I called him Kels.
Well done.
Practiced that 8 times in front of the mirror this morning. Travis Kelce, there was a Super Bowl ad for RFK. Let's play it quickly because I think it's really fun and uplifting. Well, what problem would you have with this?
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through? A man who's old enough to know
And young enough to do.
Well, it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
American Values 2024 is responsible for the content of this advertisement.
Lovely ad. It's so optimistic. It's using footage from a JFK ad when JFK was running in 1960, but they just put in pictures of RFK Jr. And again, I think what RFK Jr. is trying to do in that ad is show what I just said. I am carrying on the values that my father and my uncle, when they were Democrats, when the Democratic Party wasn't so crazy, what they believed in. Free speech, strong border, strong police, all the things that I just mentioned that are now considered right-wing, but were considered to be values that both sides had until recently. And so, of course, the Kennedy family, freaks out and says that this was so horrible. What is so damn horrible about that ad? It's a lovely ad. I could go on and on. Let's look at a tweet from RFK Jr.'s first cousin, Bobby Schreiber. He said that, that is Robert F. Kennedy's response. But essentially what Bobby Shriver said was that he was very upset that RFK Jr. used the ad because it showed footage, he says, of RFK and of, I believe, Maria Shriver. And Bobby Shriver said, my parents would never have agreed with your stances, especially with regard to healthcare. Whatever. I think kind of rude. And then Bobby Kennedy very graciously respond, I'm so sorry if that advertisement caused you pain. It was created and aired by the American Values Super PAC without any involvement or approvals from my campaign. By the way, just want to pause. That's not so great to admit. I mean, RFK Jr. should be aware of any ads that are being put out for him on behalf of him. And especially if they're being, using footage from his family. So you know what? Bobby Shriver may have a point. That wasn't the point he was raising, but that's no bueno if RFK Jr. wasn't aware of that ad. So then he continues, federal rules prohibit super PACs from, okay, well, that's why you continue to read the tweet. You'll learn. Federal rules prohibit super PACs from consulting with me or my staff. I send you and your family my sincerest apologies. God bless you. What a class act. I met RFK Jr. a few months ago, and I'm not claiming that after my one meeting with him, I got to know him well, but I think I did get a pretty good sense of who he is. And he struck me as a very humble, kind, gracious, sincere individual. And in fact, I asked him a question about another family member who has been very vocal, very mean, far more mean than Bobby Shriver in his disapproval of RFK Jr., and that is Jack Schlossberg. Jack Schlossberg is the only son of Caroline Kennedy, the only grandson of JFK and Jackie O. And Jack Schlossberg put out this video which was so rude about RFK Jr. Let's play it, and then I'll tell you what RFK Jr. said to me when I asked him about this clip.
Hi, I'm Jack Schlossberg, and I have something to say. President John F. Kennedy is my grandfather, and his legacy is important. It's about a lot more than Camelot and conspiracy theories. It's about public service and courage. It's about civil rights, the Cuban Missile Crisis, and landing a man on the moon. Joe Biden shares my grandfather's vision for America, that we do things not because they are easy, but because they are hard. And he is in the middle of becoming the greatest progressive president we've ever had. Under Biden, we've added 13 million jobs. Unemployment is at its lowest in 60 years. Biden passed the largest investment in infrastructure since the New Deal, and the largest investment in green energy ever.
He's so glib.
He's appointed more federal judges than any president since my grandfather. He ended our longest war. He ended the COVID pandemic. And he ended Donald Trump.
Oh, God.
These are the issues that matter. And if my cousin, Bobby Kennedy Jr., cared about any of them, he would support Joe Biden too. Instead, he's trading in on Camelot, celebrity, conspiracy theories, and conflict for personal gain and fame. I've listened to him. I know him. I have no idea why anyone thinks he should be president. What I do know is his candidacy is an embarrassment. Let's not be distracted again by somebody's vanity project. I am excited to vote for Joe Biden in my state's primary and again in the general election. And I hope you will too.
Ugh.
I just want to tell you, I'm not an angry person. I never have been. I very rarely get angry. If I could curse right now, I would. I'm so angry watching that video. He's so glib. He's so supercilious. He's so self-righteous. How dare he say that about RFK Jr., that he's trading in on Camelot and celebrity to further himself? Look, it's a free country. He has every right to post a video, free speech. You know, I'm pro. You can say whatever the heck you want, but I also have a right to disapprove of it. Come on. RFK Jr. is running a principled campaign. You may disagree with some of what he says. You may think some of it is outlandish, but that's really, in my view, very unkind for a family member to do. So I asked RFK Jr. this because I was dying of, of curiosity. And I said to him, privately, I said, how did you feel about that video? I'm so sorry that he posted that. And RFK Jr. said to me, totally privately, there were no cameras on, there were no recording. He could have said whatever he wanted. And he said to me, you know what? God bless him. He has a right to think whatever he wants to think. I wish him well. I'm sad that so many in my family, you know, don't see what I'm trying to do, the good I'm trying to do for his country. But again, he said, God bless him. What a class act. Am I right?